here. Mrs. Slade, go ahead.
Here we go. This is a different kind of question because the man's name is mentioned many times. Ray Kelly. We're talking about the office of NYPD Commissioner. You are Joe Hines, you are the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of Kings County, and of course, Ken Thompson, you want to be the District Attorney and Chief Law Enforcement Officer in Kings County. I'll start with you, Ken Thompson.
Yes.
Would you be in favor of the NYPD Commissioner's post? Would you be in favor of being an elective office instead of being appointed? Having somebody being appointed, the police commissioner, have an elective office, just like you're running for district attorney.
I'm not in favor of that, Bob. I think that the police commissioner should be appointed because if the police commissioner has to be elected, he has to go through what I'm going through now to become Brooklyn DA. And I think that we need to have police commissioners appointed because that position is so important that I don't know if we want our police commissioners having to go through the electoral process to get the job and then have to worry about keeping the job. I think that we should have them appointed. And I believe that what we need is we need not only to have the police commissioner, because the police commissioner is important, but the role of the DA is equally important, if not more. Because the DA can police these officers and make sure that they're doing things right. We can't have a DA that rubber stamps what these cops are doing. We need to support the cops when they do right. But we also must support the community. It's not mutually exclusive. So I think that's a position that should be appointed, not elected.
Okay, Joe, how do you?
No.
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 No, he said
I'm not into windy
And I know, I think we may be going around getting people the right questions down, or no? Okay. And now, other, I'm going to stop the clock on myself.
Yeah, that's our time.
And it's key because today there's news always coming out. That's why it's great to have you two gentlemen here. And Brooklyn has its fair share of public housing, NYCHA residents today. And I don't know the full story, and there may be more to it, but earlier today on his radio program, Mayor Bloomberg suggested that housing authority residents should be fingerprinted for possibly security reasons. Now, once again, I want to be fair because there may be more to what he said than the sound bites we're hearing. He was talking about security in the buildings and people walking through. So he suggested housing authority residents should be fingerprinted to know who's there. No. Ken Thompson.
Let me just say this. I think it is completely unacceptable and outrageous to consider fingerprinting people who live in public housing. I started out life in public housing, raised by a single mother who struggled to take care of her 3 kids. And so my mother fought to give us a better life, became a police officer, served the city for 21 years. Because of her sacrifice and courage, I'm able to sit here today as a lawyer. And all those kids running around the projects, I want them to know that they can run around the projects today, but sit on the Supreme Court tomorrow. Yes. You can't look at the projects and look at them as if they're inherently criminal. That is wrong. I'm a living example of what the projects can produce. I went from the projects to writing a report for a sitting president. I went from the projects that had a own law firm on 5th Avenue and 16th Street. I went from the projects to graduate NYU Wall Street, one of the best law schools in the country. So I think that the people in the projects should be treated with dignity and respect. They should be given cameras to make sure that they have cameras on those doors, cameras in those elevators, cameras on the roof, and have locks on those doors. When I go home, I lock my door. Why should the people who live in public housing not have the same deep fundamental right to safety? That's what we should do for the people in the projects.
I thought my no answer was sufficient, but now I'd like to talk, since this is a forum, I want to talk about some of the programs. And why Brooklyn has become so safe over the years, thanks to the folks out here, all the Thompson supporters and my supporters, because community involvement. I was the first district attorney in the country to have a residential alternative to drug prosecution. First one in the country. I was the first district attorney in the country to have a reentry program for the formerly incarcerated. Both of those programs have been academically validated. Columbia University had a 5-year study for our drug program found that 63% of my graduates never got arrested during the 5 years of the study. That of course the reoffending rate was cut in half. Of course the cost of it was infinitely cheaper. Bruce Weston of Harvard University found that our reentry folks, who would ordinarily recidivate at the rate of 6 out of 10, that's a national average, the recidivism rate is 2 out of 10. And I believe that we can continue offering services for those folks so we can reduce it even further. And each time we've been able to do that, in either one of those programs, it has had a direct effect on public safety. Those are two of the reasons that Money Magazine, 13 years after I became privileged as the district attorney, to say Brooklyn was one of the 10 best places to live in America. Those are real programs that we have created. Those and 40 others. And the most recent one I'm very proud of, and I'll be more than happy to close my mouth, is Justice Home. The Women's Prison Association, if you believe this, approached me and said they got $500,000 worth of grants from the city to keep women at home instead of putting them in jail. Would you sign on? And I said, where do I sign up? Justice Home is going to be offered to 45 women, mostly mothers, and they will be able to stay home and nurture their children. They will be facing 6 months to 4 years. They'll be case managed by folks hired by the Women's Prison Association, and I believe we're going to reduce their recidivism rate, but best of all, the children will be precluded or protected from the horrible trauma of watching mom going off to prison and be helpless. I'm very, very proud of that.
Let's talk about story.
Wait. Should I answer that? I mean, I haven't been given a chance to talk about his programs.
You want to talk about his program?
I want to talk about the programs. First of all, I want to make it clear today that what Joe Hines...
Hold on, give me 1 second here. There's folks, if we can put those phones on vibrate or turn them off, it's kind of distracting. All right, sorry about that, Mr. Thompson, go ahead.
Okay, what I want to make clear is that what Joe Hines did by creating DTAP was innovative in 1990. It was something that was the right thing to do in 1990. When he created the Comm Alert for reentry, that was innovative back in the day. But what we can't have today in 2013, he talks about all of these folks, like he cites to this professor at Harvard, Bruce Weston, like he just did. He could cite to Bruce Weston, Bruce Jenner, Bruce Banner, Bruce Lee. It doesn't matter because the people of Brooklyn are leading the city in shootings and homicides. We have to create programs to keep these young men from coming into the system in the first place. I believe that we need to go to the next level of innovation because most of his programs, and I support them. I'm not going to come into office and just eliminate these programs. Whoever is working, I'm going to make them better. But what's important is we have to realize that many of his programs are for people who are in the system. Once you get arrested, once you get in trouble, I want to create programs to keep young men and women out of the criminal justice system. Because the criminal justice system is harsh. The criminal justice system leaves scars on you that you will never recover from. And so what I want to do is reach into those schools and get those kids, go into the communities and try to stop them from coming in the first place. That's the difference between me and him.
All right. And you can say, what I want to do is, because you guys can't go back and forth and respond to each other, but if somebody's going to do a rebuttal, then we're going to limit it to 1 minute on that so we can keep up with the questions.
I don't need more than a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
We've had, for the first time since 1960, the lowest homicide rate since that period, under 150 murders since 1960. Over the years, we went from 760 murders down to that rate. We've had an 80% reduction in violent crime. Ken acts as if I started DTAP and then went somewhere. And I started reentry and went somewhere. These are all institutional programs. They keep helping people. It's the gift that keeps on giving. He doesn't understand that. Yeah!
The 760 murders that he points to, and the 150 homicides we have now, what he is trying to do, he is trying to take credit for every drop in crime. Guess what? Crime went down all across the country, from Washington, D.C. to Chicago since the 90s, and in New York City. And it didn't go down simply because he was Brooklyn DA. It went down for a lot of reasons. You all may recall that in the 90s, we had a crack epidemic that fueled a lot of the murders, a lot of the crimes that were going on. We also know that Mayor Dinkins gave us something called Safe Streets, Safe Cities. Let's keep it real. He was DA, but the crime didn't come down solely because he was DA.
All right, well, you have a question, okay. But then actually, I don't mind them going back and forth, but if we stay on that one issue, we can't address, you want to respond?
Well, I want to talk about
Okay.
David Dinkins, who, by the way, was the first person to support me in my re-election, and remains my strongest supporter, and I'm very, very proud to have him. And I mean no disrespect to Ken, if you would listen to this, there was